Never in the history of the world have the merchants of obscenity had available to them the modern facilities for disseminating this filth. The onslaught of the communist masters of deceit.
Bingo. Comma. Slutz. Bingo. Comma. Slutz. Bingo. Comma. Slutz. Bingo. Comma. Slutz.
Well, hello. We're on the new recorder, I believe.
Gay.
Yeah, so the sound should be better this time.
This time,
We're
no longer lo-fi, we're hi-fi. High-fidelity.
Yep.
Yeah.
The type of sound equipment studios spend hundreds of dollars for.
Yeah, we gotta admit it, guys. We are 100-airs.
100-airs.
So that is
I mean, like,
we're not buying
personally,
real estate on the
not
California
due to the Patreon,
coast.
because that would never pay for this. But yes, personally, we all have hundreds of dollars to our names.
I know. I hate to brag.
Why are you looking at me?
I wasn't sure if you did.
How
poor
rude
one.
of me to assume. You're right.
The poor one.
I mean,
The economy is just shambles.
That's true. And I'm a lonely delivery driver.
Anyway, that means
But
you
now I can hold
are
a
all
mic
not
away from my mouth
donating
when I drink.
enough to the Patreon.
That means that I have clout.
look, send money to the Patreon and we'll make Steve do some feet shots on OnlyFans before they shut it down, baby.
I'll put my Hobbit feet on there.
Look, someone's into it.
Too many people are into it. Tony's into it.
Yeah, my dog is into it. She's
really into
a
my
foot
feet.
fetishist.
Yeah.
Gross, Tony.
Yeah, the grossest type
She's
of
like,
human.
don't kink shame me.
Don't
It's a kink, Tony. I wasn't
Wait,
even thinking
is
that.
Tony Russian? Did you just do
no.
a Russian accent for Tony?
No, Tony's accent is based primarily on my friend's mom.
I always thought
So
of Tony
Greek,
as,
but this woman particularly had this very like flowery sort of accent.
I always thought of her as the Saturday Night Live Versace character.
Yeah. Sure. I think that's fair.
Versace.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of Versace.
To introduce, Miss
Yeah,
Introducer.
I know. Hello, welcome to Pinko Kami Slutz. We are in person again. You realized you opened it.
Marlo's opening a bottle
He's
of wine.
opening a bottle of wine.
In honor of us being
We've got
together.
mics
I
and we've
don't
got
have a
headphones
corkscrew.
and we're physically in person, but we are like fawns learning to walk for the first time. Just very, very awkward. I probably haven't done the levels in this little recorder properly.
No, you're not going to hear me at all, but you'll hear all of Marlo.
We should hear you. These are dynamic mics, right?
I'm hearing you in the cans, as they say.
Very nice. Very nice. And you can be like, turn me up in my headphones.
Yo, turn me up.
Call them the cans. That's radio speak.
Yo, you've got nice cans on your head.
That's not how you use that word, Stephen.
I really upset though, guys, because we got this new equipment, but it doesn't all go together how it should.
Nope.
So
Yeah,
the mic
so
stands
anyway,
can't fit the mic thingy,
Sign
so
up
we're just
for the
free
Patreon, and
balling
you'll
it.
have Craigslist information on our unusable mic stands.
Or I'll
Resold.
just buy the thing that connects them.
Mic stands for sale, never used.
Mic stands for a very sad story.
Ooh, we should call that the episode. the title of it.
Very proud
All
of himself
right.
on that one.
Yeah.
I am, and you should be too.
I think Marlo's having a hard time because he can't play speed chess while he's recording while
I
we're in
easily
person.
could do that.
Like, it wasn't
gonna
a
do that.
challenge. It wasn't a challenge.
And
I was
also,
just like-
Marlo doesn't speed chess when he's.
No, I did.
Oh, you got to keep the mic in your.
Oh, sorry. I try and look at you as I'm talking.
Don't do that. The mic is all that's important here.
yeah. Just the sound of your own voice knocking around in those cans.
Yep.
Yeah, radio.
That's what they call them.
Oh, guys, a stranger wants to send me a message.
Uh-oh.
Sexy.
Show us what it is. Tell us.
It's just a show flyer. It's not even like, hi, I want to meet you.
Make something up. Improvise.
Isn't
Now that you told me to, I'm not going to
Yeah.
out of spite. I'd never. No, I only improvise when it's a scam, a true one coming from my heart.
What's a good scam that you've done?
I appreciate the idea of scamming way more than I can scam myself. I can only scam if I feel like I'm getting over on the man. I feel like it's pretty cool that when you use the self-checkout at a store, a lot of times you can just steal.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, easily.
Easily steal.
and in fact, I've heard some people say that you should steal because it's the right thing to do in that situation.
Yeah. And my favorite thing when I worked at Whole Foods was because they would have middle-aged women that were watching over the self-checkout just so that couldn't happen. And I really liked it when they would catch somebody and they would run out in the middle of the parking lot and like beat them over the head with something.
See, it's like, first of all, that shouldn't be anybody's job.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought they were specifically instructed to not follow shoplifters for.
it
liability
depends
purposes.
on like
Depends.
municipality to.
Yeah, this was a suburban store in Princeton, so
Oh yeah, I applied to work there.
I
They said
did work
no.
there.
You know, I didn't see the movie Brazil because I was interviewing to work at that Whole Foods.
Did you watch it later?
No, I never saw the end of Brazil, and it's all because of that Whole Foods.
The end of Brazil is pretty good.
Yeah, the beginning and middle was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it immensely.
Is Marlo spitefully playing chess right now?
I am.
This is what you've done, Bunny. Now he's not going to participate in anything.
No, I've been participating like a motherfucker. I'm also up at night in a pond, so there's that.
There is that.
There is that.
There is that.
Yeah, that we're all privy to.
Yeah. Look, we've all got attention issues where maybe it's easier to play a game of chess while you're having a conversation.
Absolutely.
Well,
That's-
this is your fault because you shaming him, telling him he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he's doing it.
He's doing it out of
I wasn't
spite.
saying that he couldn't do it. I was saying like he was so used to doing it that he was now like, oh,
And now he's reflexively.
Oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Is he losing?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Well, Bunny,
We all learned a valuable lesson about playing chess at certain times.
don't do it when you're distracted.
Uh-huh.
Don't do it when you're distracted. It's
Bunny.
a recipe for a disaster.
Bunny and I can talk about the witches, though.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. The witches of Reddit.
The witches of Reddit. Now, specifically, I believe we want to talk about the witches of Reddit who are throwing out calls, announcing their intention
Yes.
to hex the Taliban.
Yes.
And
If you want, I could bring it up and read it.
please, it was quite good.
All right. You just give us some context, though.
Well, I mean, in terms of what? Why
We.
they would.
Yeah,
We.
like, are we starting with 9/11?
Yeah, like why the Taliban or
This
I think
seems
this
to be
is
a
in a
thing
long
that's
line of of the nexus of I think what's summed up as like witch talk, this online young millennial Gen Z witchcraft that's sort of like runs the gamut from, like true believers to outright scammers to like very earnest practitioners to people just talking some bullshit.
Yes.
And then of the people talking bullshit, some of them know they're talking bullshit, and others are like, no, this is very good. This is very good magic with a K. So
Magic with a K.
a while back, there was a thing where a bunch of baby witches were like, we're going to hex the moon. And it didn't make any sense. Like, I don't know what the moon did that they thought was going to help or whatever, but
Gotta hex something.
but it certainly seemed like a funny thing for...
Wasn't it also for the Supreme Court?
So I want to separate people who are quote-unquote witches who do actual activism, whatever. There are some groups that are in this vein that I wouldn't disparage. What I want to talk about are the people who are sort of very, very flippantly like learn a little bit about quote-unquote witchcraft, whether that's Wicca, whether that's some shit they saw on the internet, whether that's like doing a full cultural appropriation on somebody,
Green face.
all this stuff. They go like holy roller where they're like literalist about it, where they're like, bad person, we should hex bad person. So if you were to agree that some degree of magic is real
With a K.
and there are practitioners out there, etc., I would wait a moment and imagine that possibly those witches and warlocks and whatnot may have already tried to curse, hex, whatever, ex bad guy, ex warlord, whatever, So I think it's in that same vein.
It is.
And it's very, okay, you imagine you have energetic powers where through focusing your intention, you could affect bad guys around the world. And you're picking the Taliban?
Yeah, what did they ever do?
Like, of all the bad guys, I'm just saying. You're only thinking about them because they're in the news.
When it's the news, you should hex.
Yeah, look.
All right, let me
witches,
read.
to-
There, I won.
Yes, Marlo won. He cast this spell.
Congrats, everyone.
All right. This is an r/bewitch the Taliban. Do not face Allah alone when astral projecting. Today, while astral projecting, I summoned Allah to try and weaken him so our hexing spells would work better. He is so fucking powerful. I'm not at a power level to do this alone. I barely escaped with my life and I'm spiritually injured to a great amount, but I think I'll make it. I can't imagine what he would do to a new, unsuspecting witch. I'm scared that I have to face him again soon if I ever want to continue astral projecting. I'm currently burning, healing incense and drawing spiritual energy from my crystals to try and heal as quickly as possible. Please be safe, everyone.
Calling
Allah
bullshit on this.
I am-
much stronger than I first imagined. And if we will have to do this together, if we want to slay a god.
So, duh, Marlo. You think it's like it's a troll?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, possible, but I do want to call attention to what I do think is a somewhat prevalent idea, which is that Allah is Muslim God and not simply
The god.
yes. And that
the
specifically
Judeo-Christian-
you could astral project and like try to fight this specific god, and the amount of nefariousness like imbued, which unfortunately I think it would have been more fun if it was peppered with a little bit more detail. Seems like this person knows very little about Islam.
Or at least isn't giving a lot away.
yeah. But
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a troll. I don't know. I feel like this is just meant to make them look silly.
I don't know anymore though. Like the earnestness with which people who want to take the idea of a hex, a curse, a spell, whatever seriously, I don't know. It's like whatever that law is. I don't know whether it's a parody or
Oh,
not.
Posla.
Yeah.
Pose law, yeah.
I mean, I've brought up demons like a ton of weeks in a row
Willy-nilly.
because
Yeah, but like
I've had actual conversations with people where I'm like, we're talking about demons.
And in their eyes, Allah is a demon.
Yes, or like a nefarious god, or like even, I guess,
Which really should tell you more about this person's background than anything about Muslims.
yeah, I mean, the handshake meme, witches and Pentecostals.
Yeah. Or, I mean, I feel like there's a lot of Catholicism and witches as well.
It depends.
With the
it
blood
depends.
stuff.
First of all,
The ritual, the blood.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like
Literalist.
Latin American Catholicism and witchcraft, sure, but
Or
there's not.
Church of Satan was like clearly created by the kids who hated going to Catholic school, and is very much designed to just say like, oh, what if we like drew a big dick on the Pope?
Like, what if we did it, but like upside down and backwards?
Yeah. My favorite Christian metal song is called Invert, the Inverted Cross. Someone can tell me who wrote.
Just Hegelian.
Yeah, no, it really is, actually. No, it super is. I should play this song for Slava Žižek sometime.
Yeah, you should. You should go to one of his readings with your
I was
phone
like reading
queued
about
up.
a Christian metal band on Wikipedia, and it just like listed it in the track listings. Never listened to it. Don't even remember the band, but I do remember that title.
All right, I'm looking it up right now, and we're going to listen to it.
Very cool. I don't even know what kind of Christian metal this is.
It's by a band called Horde, which
Cool.
should tell you all you need.
It doesn't at all. Like, why would you call a Christian band that?
Hello, Zizek, this is for you.
Negate the negated cross. Oh, okay. So they're like Christian death metal. Or is this black? I forget which.
Sounds like black metal.
Yeah, the high pitch is black. That's all.
Well, that was Invert the Inverted Cross.
Cool name for a song. Yeah, good for them.
Yeah. It is good, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said,
I could be the official DJ. If you want to hook this up before every episode, I will play music.
well, there is a way to do it precisely that,
also-
or have a soundboard, basically.
We probably shouldn't just willy-nilly steal people's music.
Yeah.
To quote
Prince is dead,
to quote
so
a Whitest Kids sketch that I showed Bunny
Bob
earlier
Dylan
today.
is a pedophile.
Yeah, but to quote the Whitest Kids sketch, I feel like there's a reason people don't do that.
you're comparing it to the beer for kids.
Kid beer.
R.I.P. We didn't do it.
Well,
A Trevor
Bunny
Moore-
is less familiar.
What?
I mean, you can.
Well, after this episode, we're gonna just have to watch Whitest Kids You Know.
I mean, I gotta fully be honest. I didn't really watch it when it was on because I kind of knew somebody who dated one of those guys, and like I was sort of like jealous of them in my early 20s.
That's funny.
Because I had been a sketch comedian myself and would have very much liked to have had a show with my college like sketch comedy group.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like one of those
Fair.
things where I was like,
Yeah.
so I kind of didn't
That's why
watch
I
their
can't-
stuff till later, but
That's why I can't date a successful musician. I would be like, what's the deuce? You got famous on your band. Why didn't I get famous on my band?
yeah. It's like I don't like acting like a fan of somebody if there's like a personal connection, especially if they're doing something that I would like to do. So I just pretend to like
Yeah.
be unfamiliar.
But they're legitimately pretty good, like 70% of the time.
Yep.
I give it a C- to C+. And by comedy standard, that's really good.
Yeah.
Well, Bunny's doing something. Do. Oh, she's getting her wine. Spill the wine and take that pearl.
Oh, wine.
Spill the wine, take that pearl.
See, this is much better than you just
Spill
DJ'd.
the wine and fuck that girl.
I
Which
feel like those
again-
aren't the words.
Spill the wine, take that pearl.
No, it's definitely spill the wine, take that pearl.
Yeah.
But I remember Uncle Phil singing it in an episode of Fresh Prince. And I feel like maybe it is that. Maybe that is the word.
It is absolutely spill the wine and take that pearl.
Yep. And it's a white guy friending a black band.
Yep.
And he was in the Animals. His name was Eric Burden. And the band behind him was War. And it was called
the concept.
like Afghanistan.
I thought it's
I
spill the wine, dig that girl.
dig that girl,
Take the pearl.
take the pearl.
It is an oft misquoted song
Yeah.
because the actual lyrics are quite silly.
Yeah. I was an actor in a famous Hollywood movie.
Yeah. And then they do that one about being a lowrider.
That's War, not Eric Burden in War.
Yeah, well, okay. I said they do. I didn't say which subset of they.
Low rider, rise a little higher. Burr, 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 burr. Burr, 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 burr. War is a great
I really
fucking
think
band.
that Uncle Phil said dig that girl though.
Yeah, well, Uncle Phil is wrong. Is absolutely take that pearl.
Fresh Prince of Bel Pearl.
I mean, I know you're right. I'm just like now lots of people think it's dig that girl. Some
Yeah,
strangely thinks it's dig that pearl, which
You don't dig for pearls.
unless you're talking about eating pussy, I guess.
I was going to say digging into that oyster for a pearl, but same diff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, no.
Spill the wine and eat that pussy.
Yeah, but no, it isn't often like people don't think the lyrics are what they are for that. Like that's a song that really.
Oh man, after this episode, we're going to watch an amazing 70s music video of that song. It is just so good.
I think of,
And then I'll show you the scene from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
and we'll compare the two.
Yep.
And you'll tell me whether they said dig that girl or take that pearl, and
Or
I was
eat
just
that
like a
pussy.
child. Tony.
Tony's in love with me.
Remember that
Yeah, my dogs are
episode
pretty into Steve.
of Rugrats where they were being spacemen and Tommy said, "This is Major Tom to ground control."
That was funny. That was a good one.
One of the greatest Jewish cartoons of all time.
Yep.
That's where I learned about Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Not really.
Where I learned about Moses.
I learned about Hanukkah
Yeah,
from Adam
Passover
Sandler.
episode fucking rocked.
Yep.
I remember watching that with my Baba. She fucking loved that episode.
One thing I've learned in the last week is that the biggest threat to socialism is other socialists.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, okay, so there's like two places to go from there.
Or three if you consider Contrapoints.
Yeah, okay. I don't want to consider Contrapoints.
Bunny and I watched Contrapoints.
We did, yeah.
Marlo
I
refused
still fully
I
Like-
go through life by hearing about things that I sound like I would hate it, and then I don't consume it because I don't hate myself, and I like to enjoy my life.
okay. I still, despite not totally agreeing with Contrapoints, I still enjoyed watching her. Also, I'm like attracted to her, so I like.
Yeah,
I'm just
sure.
like, okay, I'll watch it. And I'm aware of that. I also just think that, I don't know, there's this thing with the online left, or et cetera, where
Buzzword.
it's like people keep looking for this amorphous, vague thing, like for one of these figures to do something, but then they do something else, like, you know, our regular
Support capitalism.
Engage
in reactionary discourse.
I'm going to say that I absolutely thought a lot of the attacks on Contrapoints were bullshit, and I 100% was behind her. And, like, I'm not, like, against her. She's not a fucking socialist. And
I feel like that was pretty clear from
the
get-go.
And this is what I'll say about Contrapoints is, unlike Vaush, unlike whatever, she doesn't constantly try and, like, fit a square peg in a round hole. She is actually pretty straightforward with what she thinks about things. And people who have assigned, like, stuff to her that she never claimed get annoyed by that. But, like, yeah, whatever. She isn't a fucking socialist. She released a video about how she's not a socialist, and it was really long, and I decided not to watch it because I don't give a shit. But, like, yeah, I don't hate her. It's whatever. She's smart. I disagree with her about stuff.
Well, I don't think the video was about how she's not a socialist. I think
it included that in the video.
I think there's this chasm of perspective that happens where I'm very aware of and know people who are committed leftists who are up in the message, just, you know, they're doing it. And then there are other people who care ostensibly about politics. You know, they're not, I wouldn't say they're like just full libs, but it's like they're not as invested in the fucking subculture. And I'm like, I hate to say it, a lot of it is fucking subculture and not actual activism and not actual organization. A lot of shit that people talk about when they're talking about this is fucking podcast drama. And like, you know, I'm sure this will come up, you know, that fucking Turk, he bought $1 million
Well, we're getting
house,
to that.
but
We're getting to that.
yeah, no, I just think...
but yeah, Hassan did nothing wrong there, so we'll get to that later.
Yeah. But I still think that, I hear the criticisms of Contrapoints, like especially in regards to this most recent video, but so much of those criticisms specifically focusing on socialism are like, she wanted to make a video like all of her other videos pretty much. It's a commentary on this macro concept, and she pulls in different things from philosophy and history and et cetera that she finds interesting or that she uses to analyze it. But it's not necessarily some sort of like cogent political force for, I just feel like
I don't even think that it was very good at reinforcing her point. Her point was that envy is this driving force that is part of human nature. And what do we do with that? And she takes it apart, she defines it apart from jealousy, she defines it apart from all these other things. Then she brings in Nietzsche, and she does a whole thing about Nietzsche and SpongeBob. And then she draws a lot of conclusions from that. And that seems to be like the arc of her essays that she consistently goes back to, where she takes a macro issue that is justice or envy or whatever else the fuck that she has in her mind, and then she makes this 1.5 hour long video, and it's like writing a long essay, and she takes some examples, and then she uses the end to make some political conclusions, or because she feels compelled to, based on what other people think about her channel. And in this case, she came to the conclusion that like envy was a driving political force, and that all the socialist revolutions that had come prior to this didn't dissipate envy in the end, and that pissed a lot of people off. It also attacked radical feminism in some different ways, which often gets swept under the rug because her targets were in two places that she takes issue with.
I think though, like, I mean, at least in the past, like, I want to say 4 or 5 videos she's done, which is, I'm talking 2.5 years back. I think she's been pretty consistent with never feeling comfortable with anything that would be considered like the label of socialist or whatever fully. And there's some aspect of it that I think I understand on this, like, she lives in Baltimore. Like, I do feel like there is this, like, the most active leftists you would see in a place like Baltimore are art school transplant kids who often have misguided notions. Often, though, like, you can tell she is aware and influenced by these people because they're often, like, more anarchist. So it's like,
Yes.
she reminds me of, there's somebody I know who, in his younger days, like, lived in an anarchist enclave and, like, blah, 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 and then, like, had this, not great experience of whatever, and it's very much colored how they view the entire politics going forward. Not that they're, like, completely, against it now, but they're, like, more middling, more.
But even taking
centrist.
that aside, I didn't know what she thought of Envy or how I should feel about Envy. And I think after watching an hour and 48 fucking minutes about a video about Envy, I should have pretty good, like, understanding of what she thinks about Envy and what I should think about Envy. And I didn't get either one of those, and all of her examples of that kind of muddied the water more than they made it clear. And that seems to be the effect of overwriting, taking too long writing this essay, because I think she felt like she had a lot of pressure on outdoing her last essay, and a bunch of other shit because she takes online life more seriously than she should.
I also think
it does seem like she's responding to specifically an online audience and thinks that's the only people that she has to respond to, which is fine, because that's like her whole thing, is responding to the online communities, et cetera, but that doesn't make it for a good argument.
I feel like there wasn't an argument. It was just, like, using this concept of envy to, like, funnel a bunch of things through, and she definitely, to me, like, there were missed opportunities in, like, some of the paths she went down. Like I mentioned to you when I watched it, she should have gone more into the evil eye beliefs,
yes,
and
did focus on that for some reason.
Because, and I'm making an assumption here, because she doesn't come from a culture that necessarily, like, takes that seriously. There was a nuance of it that was missing, where that directly connects with the concept of envy and how it.
So you're saying that you should be like a little bird in her ear for the evil eye?
The Contrapoints video would have been better if Contrapoints was Greek. You heard it here first, folks. Natalie Theomopoulos. Oh, wow. It's the dogs. You know what that sound means, folks.
It's a transition. Natalie Theonopoulos.
Natalie Thessalonio. Wait, what is Natalie's actual last name? Wynn. Oh, okay. So I should be thinking of Natalie.
Winnopolis.
Yeah, Winnopolis. That's what we were going to do. That's what we were all going to do.
There it is.
There's
we
that
haven't figured
sound.
out how to.
It's German engineering, baby. But
you know what else is German engineering? My dick.
Hey.
Are you German, Marlo?
Yes.
How German?
Quite.
As much, if not more than me.
Quarter.
Oh, that's way less than me.
Okay.
My dad is hundo.
Yeah,
German.
but no, my point with like Natalie not being a socialist is not to insult her. Her own identification would probably not necessarily be socialist, and that's fine. I think she's smart. I think she has a lot to say, and I say this with the most not using liberal as an insult possible. I think she's a very intelligent liberal.
I mean, yeah, I'd agree. I think she's too aware of the things people want her to be, and that definitely, like, colors. And she spent so much time on this video. But yeah, I just felt like even on the, like, political identity aside, there were definitely things that could have been interesting for her overall picture that she just didn't follow up on. It's like she almost got into
The evil eye. You already discussed that.
well, yeah, but more specifically, like fears around inspiring envy and how that plays out. Because the evil eye is just an example of a superstition where the real warning is against doing things that inspire envy. Not necessarily because a supernatural evil eye or curse or spirit is coming for you, but possibly a coded warning about what, in a small village setting, what standing out too much can
Having the
inspire.
only electric fence in Bulgaria, as the saying goes.
So can inspire in others. Like I think like I grew up like with the belief that it's bad luck to say nice things about especially like babies or like vulnerable people. Like
You should never satisfy babies' need to
well,
be.
it's yeah, it's just like, and it always made me think like, you know, it's kind of sad because if you take that to the extreme, you never ever can accept a compliment. You can never take anything in seriously.
Mediterranean culture is a culture for developing Freudian psychoses, as The Sopranos so eloquently displays.
But my point was that the conclusion that the video seemed to end on, and the conclusion that most people that were socialists that watched it, concluded the Contrapoints thought that the problem with socialism was other socialists.
I can see how they got there because I do think there's a part of Contra basically addressing people who were critical of her.
Yes.
Specifically, which is kind of this realm or world. I think that idea is just broadly out there, and I'm not a fan of it. I feel like belly aching about some other leftist being too rude is sort of a distraction and a waste of time. You know, it's what the libs do. It's what...
I will once again say, I do think that Contrapoints got, like, the shit end of the stick several times, and I understand why she is bitter. And, like, I'm fine with bitter Contrapoints, but, like, also, yeah, I mean, sure, I disagree with her politically, and I don't take that as a personal affront. I don't expect to agree with everyone politically.
But I just wanted a better essay. I wanted her to like write more things that like backed up her central thesis.
I don't care at all about a thesis or an argument. I'm like, you spent too much time on...
Okay.
That seems
it's
like...
a YouTube video. She spent too much time
It's an
on
essay she wrote. She wrote an essay that was 10,000 words, and she should have a thesis to it.
I guess, like,
That is
but what is that?
why
What
one
like?
writes essays.
Yeah,
Like-
it's like the first thing you write in essay writing class is, what is your thesis? And I didn't know her, and I didn't know her thesis, and I want to know her thesis.
And I'm saying outside of an actual like academic situation, like we're not everyone watching this is watching this for an argument. It's they're watching it because they are into her personality. They're watching it for entertainment.
All right.
They're watching it.
I have a contrapoint to this. The name Contrapoints.
I don't know. I just think like I don't know with a subject like envy, like what.
Yeah, no,
What-
there is a thesis about envy there. Like, I mean, that is...
Why does it impact your life? What is important about
why
it?
am I talking about envy is a thesis on envy.
And I didn't get that, and I was frustrated the entire time trying to figure out what she wanted to say about it. Like, I knew what she had to say about incels. She had a good thesis. Great thesis when it came to
Great
incels.
video. Absolutely deserved to get like a media fanfare.
Which it did.
Yeah.
And her videos...
But that's what she's living in the shadow of, is being labeled the alt-right whisperer and etc.
Right. And like, she had a good thesis. She had a good thing she was talking about. She had a clear message that she had in mind.
I can watch that and understand what Contrapoints thinks as to why people become incels, what cultural forces lead to that, why you shouldn't be an incel, and what possible solutions there are to inceldom. I can watch that and tell you those things.
Couldn't say that about envy.
Well, I think that it's quite a bit easier to talk about something like incels and how they become that way in a cogent way than it is to talk about envy.
Then talk about something different.
Well, I agree. Yeah, but I don't
talk about SpongeBob SquarePants for 45 minutes and how he is the Ubermensch. That is
Bunny,
a thesis.
if you stay up late enough tonight, I will show you the Cuck Philosophy Simpsons video.
He loves that video more than I do.
Yeah, or any other Jonas Cheka videos.
Yeah. But like, even within the world of Contrapoints, even within the world of YouTube political theses, this video in particular was not well crafted, was not well argued, and kind of slapped together a conclusion that made everybody angry. And that seems to tell me that she didn't know her audience, that she thought way too hard about it and reasoned herself out of a cogent video that she could have made but didn't because she put too much pressure on herself.
Also, there is something to be said about that conclusion, that there is a built-in defense to criticism of that conclusion of, well, these like extremely online people I'm talking about do absolutely exist. And if you're criticizing me, maybe you're one of them. Like, and that to me is like, I mean, to say that from the clips that you showed me, from what I've read about it, there's absolutely a layer of truth to what she's saying.
Yeah.
I wouldn't ever suggest otherwise. And I mean, from the clips that I saw, she's discussing this, what I would call the like 19th century Russian nihilist strain of leftism, of nothing matters except the revolution. Anything short of this messianic revolution event is a distraction from this messianic revolution event, and our goal as leftists is to continuously self-sacrifice for this messianic event. And yeah, there is a strain of that absolutely exists, that has an outside voice online, that cynicism is an easy way to sound smart in a lazy way, that you can just say like, oh, well, that's stupid. And you can kind of find a formula to live in that sphere and never actually have to engage with anything. And yeah, she was kind of speaking to that, and that is true. But at the same time, it kind of builds in this defense of if you criticize her finer points, and I think from what I saw, from what I've heard, there are places to criticize, you can kind of get lumped in with that group.
Yeah.
Well, I also think this isn't the first time I've heard Contra make somewhat of the same argument about modern leftists and the idea that they're out here being so idealistic, about which she also strikes me as someone who knows enough about it to know that using the word idealistic to an audience that has a more
utopian. The way she used utopian
excuse me,
was absolutely
Yeah.
a trigger for Marxists.
Yeah, so I'm like, she's got to be aware of that and just not care, really.
I don't think she is. I mean, you would expect her to be.
She is necessarily.
I think she has to be.
You would expect her to be, but
like, I would never say Contrapoints is not well read.
it's not about being well read. It's
But
about
you can
She
be
knows
well-read.
what
You
Lenin says about idealism. She knows what idealism means.
She argued online that she'd never read Marx before.
Really?
Yeah. That
That's
was a
kinda weird.
thing. She like started to read in college, thought it was stupid, and then was like, should I read this again? And then she never went back to it again.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I'll again go back to she's a very intelligent liberal,
Yeah.
and I don't need her to be a socialist.
No, I think it is a blind spot. I think it is having to do more with like a Reddit sphere of radical liberals, rad libs who are populating this space that are arguing about trans identity that is endemic to all of these cultural fights, and that's the only way that she engages with it. And then there's this other force that comes out that are these like socialists who are like, well, you're not socialist enough. And those are these utopians, or those are these idealists who tell her that she's wrong and that she doesn't have the reading or the theoretical understanding of why they're telling her that. And so she responds with like sweeping criticisms. And
yeah, but I think you could also have that same reaction even if you are aware of why they're saying it to you. Like, I've certainly met Marxists who I know what the fuck they're talking about, who I still think are fucking bullshit. Like, they're not doing anything, they're not whatever, they're being very critical of others and how adherent they are to their idea of Marxism, which, so I think you can come to that conclusion. It's all about giving a shit about what these people in the subculture are saying rather than interpret
it's
her.
not just a subculture. Not to like be pedantic, but it is a long tradition of people believing that Marxism is a science that will bring about a revolution from the age of the 1880s.
Yeah, and there's just a specific use of the word utopian within Marxist theory that you can believe that a revolution is a necessary social force for bringing about socialism and not be a utopian. Those two things can exist at the same time.
And they were pretty central to Marxist themes.
Yeah, and there's literal books.
The way somebody who is not familiar with Marx or who does not center Marx,
Contrapoints is acting like.
But who does not center Marx, they're going to use utopian in the colloquial sense where they just mean a perfect place, a perfect society.
Which is why it's so enraging.
But, okay, because here's
that is a stupid thing who speaks to somebody not reading.
She knows.
But she's speaking to the tone and the attitude and not to the theory there. She's not actually criticizing
there should
the
be
theory.
A 2-second explanation, or 2 sentences explaining how you're using utopian. You are specifically talking about Marxism. You know some of your audience is Marxist. You're going to be using the word utopian a lot. I'm fairly certain she has done the reading, even if that reading is a bunch of stupid posts on her YouTube video. She is aware of what her using utopian would mean without some qualification of, okay, this is how I'm going to use utopia.
Well, I agree. I don't know. It seems familiar to me in a weird way where I'm like, oh, when I'm in a setting where leftism isn't the commonality among everyone, when I'm in a setting where it's more of a mixed bag, it's more of a whatever, like I don't necessarily think Contra prioritizes speaking to the Marxists.
Except for the fact that all of her videos, as we've been pointing out, have been a series of responses to her extremely weird audience that she has. Like, that is kind of who she's in a constant conversation with at this point in time. She originally started as a somewhat left and more learned space to try and de-radicalize alt-right people, or at least provide a counter to that, ergo Contrapoints, that's her name. But, as we've said, the last however many and a half years, she has been in this conversation with her audience, and her audience does actually include a lot of Marxists, and the tone and arguments and people that she's speaking to in her videos. If she's talking to a general audience of Americans, why the hell is she talking about revolution? Like, a general audience of Americans don't need to hear, like, oh, actually, a messianic revolution shouldn't be your primary concern. Because, yeah, frankly, for a large swath of Americans, a messianic revolution event is not their concern.
Well, and that gets
That's
me
fair,
back to
yeah.
my original point that her conclusion ends up being that socialists are the biggest enemies to other socialists. And that brings us to the utopian socialists, and I mean that in the very pedantic academic sense of Nathan J. Robinson.
Oh, God.
Who
I have not read any of the statements, and I don't care. I already made my judgments.
if there's any utopian socialists out there, because he
Proud utopian socialist. Well, once again, Contrapoints is a liberal, not as an insult, but because that is based on everything I've heard her say, how she would be comfortable identifying. A very enlightened liberal, a very smart liberal, but a liberal. Nathan J. Robinson is a utopian socialist, not as an insult, but because that's what he is. I'm neither of those two things, but I can respect people who have things that they've researched, believe in, and are fine with.
and Nathan J. Robinson
But now let's get to the thing.
hit his fall. What's the final story on this? Because
I have no idea.
because
Didn't bother to read.
because the story is that it was initially that he
Fired people for unionizing.
fired people for trying to make a co-op out of the current affairs staff.
And from like the 3 sentences I read about his out of his 20-page statement, it was like, oh, actually these people were like making hiring decisions that I disagreed with, and it was kind of a diversity thing. So that's like how I got it. But then like he also said he wanted to have creative control.
Yes, that was the main thing that seemed to be what embittered him, was the creative control aspect of it. And I will be frank, I tried to write an article for Current Affairs. They were standoffish. They were not very communicative. They seemed...
You did work hard on this article. I will actually attest to this. Like, Steve actually busted his ass to write this fucking article.
I wrote a 7,500 word essay about...
We'll post it in the links.
Yeah.
We're posting it in the links.
This is part of our Patreon. We're going to give my hard work. And so I interviewed 2 socialist candidates that were local to Brooklyn, and I wrote up a huge essay. The pandemic hit, wasn't sure if it was going to go to print. And then the current affairs staff dug their nails into it. They found a sentence or 2 that sounded like information that I took from Wikipedia, which may or may not have been taken from Wikipedia. I don't remember.
As someone who has read both of the sentences, yes, it was a very inconsequential background fact sentence that you clearly, if you read those 2 sentences side by side, there were some words changed, but sure, you lifted it from Wikipedia. It was an unimportant background part of the sentence, but the solution to that is
changing the fucking sentence.
Yes, that's why we have editors and readers. That's why we have people who look into this.
And what they did was they tanked the entire essay and refused to print it on the night of the primary election for the Democratic Socialists.
Right. This article was time sensitive. Steve interviewed people, actually treated it like a fucking article, and it was supposed to come out the night before the primaries about these candidates from Brooklyn
who ended up winning.
Yeah, he had another candidate lined up who dropped out. Dude fucking busted ass on this shit. And there was one sentence that
And
was
let's be honest,
an unimportant background sentence of like, oh, so-and-so graduated from whatever college.
No. What it was I got information about a previous run that the guy, I'm not going to say his name, but that the previous run...
It rhymes with Ms. Burt.
He ran as a Green Party person, and I got some information about his Green Party run from probably Wikipedia, and they were like...
I mean, you did... The wording was the same. Like, yeah, sure, you, like, lazily, like, it was a...
Copy and paste situation.
You changed some words. It was a paraphrase.
What they could have done was they could have gone through the rest of the essay using one of those handy apps to see...
Again, this is why you have editors.
To make sure that I mean, there's also programs that make sure you're not lifting entire paragraphs. Anyways, they tanked the article and they refused to pay me for the 20 to 30 hours that I spent writing this article.
Right.
And they've never gotten back into my good graces. And now that Nathan J. Robinson fired a bunch of staff and looks like a union buster, makes my...
He's always looked like a union buster.
Well, yeah, I mean, he looks like somebody in an Anne Rice novel who also was played by Brad Pitt, who's very
You might
gay.
be saying, doesn't he mean Ayn Rand? And
No.
the answer to that is no, he doesn't, but
No.
also yes.
No, Interview with a Vampire. He
Yeah,
looks
I
like
know
a
what you
character from Interview with a Vampire, and he looks like somebody that would bust a union. So what he did was he fired all these people, then he wrote an apology, then he tried to re-explain why he didn't fire all of them. And anyways, the media bubble took this and was like, oh, socialism is eating its own, and that when socialists try to do socialism, the people in charge who purport to be socialists end up being hypocrites, which works within my thesis that socialists are the enemies of socialism.
You know, I'm not a fan of we're eating ourselves and arguments and
No,
that
it's a
vein.
fake argument.
Yeah.
It's a fake argument, and I'm putting it out there as a hyperbole because it's stupid. But these are a bunch of different stories that came out around the same time about how socialism is eating their own that I thought I'd discuss.
Meanwhile, Bhaskar Sankara fucking riding this week out.
Yeah,
good.
Jacobin is
there is nothing being said about Jacobin right now.
Yeah, no, Jacobin's just putting out things about how Stalin was bad, and
Yeah.
Are they?
yeah, they did a Stalin is bad one.
I mean, he is,
Where-
for the record, and
He
fuck you all.
apparently traded Jews back to the Nazis before.
Yeah, that happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Really,
then
it was Chamberlain's fault, but also...
Trotsky's fault.
Yeah, whatever.
That's what the Stalinists said.
Like, Trotsky is just being correct about things.
Trotsky's just being correct about things.
So that's the lowdown on the current affairs firing.
Which I just am really impressed with how many people just seem to exist who are like, guess what? I'm a socialist, everyone. Oops, I can't do the most basic thing. Like, that would be...
Again, okay, so Nathan's various descriptions, as someone who's read none of them, his various descriptions are very confusing because... I like do that thing where you just scroll and pick up words and then like don't go back to it. And it sounds like Nathan did absolutely nothing wrong. And then Nathan keeps apologizing. And it's like, dude, you got to pick a fucking lane. You read his explanations or even parts of his explanations or even you...
Letters of words within the explanation.
Yeah. And the conclusion you draw is... there were some reactionaries on his staff who were trying to undermine the core values of current affairs, and he let them go. And then you read Nathan J. Robinson's explanation, And he literally says, I'm sorry, every other fucking paragraph. Like, he's like,
There's a lot of paragraphs.
I did wrong. I apologize. I'm not defending what I... And then you read this, like, defense of what he did, that it's like, well, if that's true, I don't see why you're apologizing.
Well, I think that he, in one way, is apologizing to the spectacle of how it looks in the media, and he's trying to do like a PR thing on top of that, where I didn't actually do what was in the media, but the media makes me look bad, so I'm apologizing for what they think I did.
And I just want to be clear, if you're thinking that I'm defending Nathan J. Robinson right now, my position has always
cut
been
you if you are.
that I disagree with him politically, and also I think he dresses stupid.
He does.
And therefore, I don't care what the facts are. I just think he's wrong. And
the newspaper is bad.
what is truly being a socialist is to not care about the facts, because, you know, facts can do whatever. I mean, facts can be fascist.
Yeah, we're post-facts.
Right. We're in a post-facts world. Read Derrida. And the point is that what is really true is I dislike Nathan personally, so therefore everything he did was wrong. And that is how I feel.
Well, primarily I'm familiar with him via mostly your hatred of him.
Yeah,
Steve.
my hatred.
So, also he looks like a guy I knew in high school,
A slave owner.
whose dad was a guy who owned like I think it was a furniture store, but he did like regional commercials where
Dude looks like he's wearing upholstery.
yeah, like
It's very tweed.
yeah. It was
I mean,
he would have a stuffed owl on his fucking shoulder.
How Nathan J.
reminds me of a
Robinson...
professor who definitely fucks a 17-year-old. is
How the man dresses
very
is
pretentious.
this, which is to say, yeah, it's goofy, but I'm okay with myself enough to be kind of goofy, and I like these clothes, and that's how I dress. And on one level, that's fine. On another level, how he dresses is that dude who has, like, the third after his name, and family, like, invented, like, shipping containers back in 1907.
Which I think is accurate, because I think his actual background is people from England that moved to the Louisiana Bayou.
I think that is true. Actually.
That is true. His family's from England, and they moved to Louisiana.
He's the only non-Catholic old family of Louisiana.
Yeah.
Which is just like... Yeah.
oh, so he's like a southern dandy.
Yeah, he's a poofter.
Right. He's basically an Irish unionist for Louisiana.
I
Yeah.
see. Well,
So-
fuck him.
Well, and I will say that he's definitely in leagues with Noam Chomsky,
Yeah. Well, I mean...
because Zizek told me that.
Okay, this is, again, what an actual utopian socialist is.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to bring it up, because Contrapoints accused all of us of being utopians, and he is actually
She accused me. You all are utopians, but she accused
What?
me, which is the real problem.
What?
No, I was just being that person Contrapoints was describing. No, if you want to use the technical description of utopian socialist, and you want to know
for a year.
what is a well, yeah, okay. If you want to actually read theory, you have to be a Marxist. Sorry, but if you want to know what the current application of utopian socialism is, yeah, it would be Nathan J. Robinson, Current Affairs, and Noam Chomsky. That is what utopian socialism is. It's a thing. It exists. You can agree with it or not. I don't. Other people do. Some of those people are nice people. It's fine. It's not an insult. It's just the word for the thing.
So now getting to the other example of the left eating itself or whatever.
You're a socialist and yet you own things.
The left is a 69 Ouroboros of itself.
Yep. Yeah, we're fucking
And
our own
also,
mouth.
for the
That's right.
record, like, Hassan is wrong about everything and, like, a dumb person who has bad politics. But also, it's fine that he bought a house.
But
It's
he
totally
is-
If we're working along the ideological spectrum, if Contrapoints is a liberal and Nathan J. Robinson is a utopian socialist, Hassan is a revisionist Marxist.
Yeah, Hassan would be like a half degree to the right of Bhaskar if we're going to like continue this
Okay,
spectrum.
let's not pretend
Listen,
that Hassan is not a himbo.
he
Okay.
is a handsome man
He's a
Yeah.
handsome man.
that a lot of people expect a lot out of
Yes.
because he's handsome.
I
Much like
expect
you
nothing from
expect a lot because you're not gay.
I expect nothing from Contrapoints either, and I'm also attracted to Contrapoints, so there.
Well,
I don't watch Contrapoints videos. I listen to them.
oh, you're really missing out.
Oh, that's, yeah.
Yeah,
What the fuck is
you're
wrong
definitely
with you?
missing out.
Fuck you, Steven.
When other time I'm driving around
This is
in my
why he
delivery
was so
job.
mad about the thesis
Fuck
being shit
you,
because he
Steven.
couldn't
No,
appreciate.
actually, he was right about that.
I mean, he's not wrong.
Buddy,
but
your like post-thesis is the
I
worst
just don't
thesis
think
I've ever
that's
heard.
the most important part.
It
of,
is. That is a bad thesis that you made. Do you notice how your thesis is being centered in this argument? Because that's
hate
literally
the
what
word
an
centered.
argument. Yeah, but I'm like using it more correctly. But yeah, anyway, the point is, theses are important. Case in point, if
Theses, not theses.
whatever.
Okay,
I'm not
you guys are
fucking
like a bunch
English.
of French academics. Okay,
If thesis,
That's what I'm
if-
going for.
Okay, so
essayist. Okay, first,
if thesi,
this is 1 point.
First,
if
We'll connect to
thesi
the
were
next
not
one.
important,
we have the introduction.
then I could ignore Bunny's thesis that thesi are not important.
Theses.
I didn't mean in general. I just don't think that's what people were
was a bold
going to
take.
Contra for. I think she didn't produce, which
Am I
she.
making a Baudrillard or a leotard reference?
I don't know what you're referencing.
No, I'm just referencing Bunny's insane postmodern take.
No, they have lots of theses.
Right, but I'm also using postmodernism in the way. But anyway,
You're using postmodern in the way where I'm like,
Point is,
who
no
cares
one gives
about
a shit
words?
about
It's about
Hassan.
feelings.
Oh my god, they cared so much about words though. They did.
yeah, no,
that was like-
actually,
That
was
is
their
that
whole
is
thing.
their whole thing.
That was their whole thing.
Yeah, no,
No,
they
so
were
much
so
about words.
into words.
Words and
It
reality.
was so insane how much the post-structure modernists or whatever the fuck gave a shit about words. It
They
was,
cared so much
it
about
was
it.
super, like, that was my thing. I like read them and I'm like, I don't give this much of a shit about words.
And they cared so much, and so do I. And that's why
Yeah,
I
no,
care.
Steve likes them because he's
I
like a
cared
word
so
man.
much about them in college because I cared so much about words.
Yeah.
It's true.
Imagine caring about these mouth sounds.
Those are not the same thing.
This is not the same thing as words.
No,
Oh, you mean
that's like the whole-
my paper scratches?
Oh, I think that
That's
you're
like the
a
whole
fucking
thing.
logos bitch.
Logos,
right.
Logocentrism, baby.
Yeah, that's right, man. There was nothing, and then there was
Logocentrism,
the
this
word,
dick.
man.
There's,
If I say my cock in the middle of this sentence, it's logocentric.
Oh man, I was about to do. I was about to sample. I was about to sample a hymn that features the word logos, but then he said cock.
anyways, back to Hassan. He
More like
deserves to
Judith
have
Fuckler.
So anyway, Hassan, he's one of them Turks.
that Bunny hates, but also
I don't hate. I just
No, she just hate. She doesn't hate him
No, I
because
only
of
got
who
mad
he
at
is.
Hassan that one
She
time where he
hates him because
disparaged
He is
The
a
Greek
Turk.
food.
Greek food. Yeah.
Where I was
Well,
like,
yeah, because
well, especially, well, also there was the time where
actually I have nothing here. I love Greek food so fucking much. I
we should
can't.
get Greek food.
For as much as I fucking love
Can
making
we
fun
all
of
go
Bunny,
to Yaya's?
yeah, yes is good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been there? You've
Yeah,
there.
I've been there.
It's so good, and I don't think they're Greek that make it, but
they're probably Turks.
They're like
Albanians.
Latin
like
Armenians.
Turks, like you got a lot of crossover, especially if you're an island.
And-
Okay,
Greek.
so
But
this
I
bit
can
will be
always
put
tell.
up on the Patreon.
Also,
as
Turks aren't owning that many
And
restaurants.
Bunny's
And-
Eugenics Hour, where she describes the various phenotypes that are found. Do you want to know whether Armenians or Turks
have
have
larger
wider-
skull shapes.
I was going to say wider noses, but pay for a Patreon, and Bunny will tell you.
Yeah. The only other criticism in this area I had of the Young Turks
Hassan.
is they had something weird in the beginning about the Armenian genocide.
The Young Turks
Um,
are a bunch of liberals.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I'd agree.
Yeah, but
I think
like,
Hassan in particular is a himbo.
But he's
I
also better than the Young Turks.
Yeah, he is, and he doesn't work for them anymore.
No.
He doesn't work for them
He's
anymore.
an independent entrepreneur who has a family that needs a $3 million house.
Yeah, okay, again, like, you own shit and yet you're socialist is not a reasonable criticism to even address, and I say that we
Well,
should
I just
not
don't
address
know.
it.
I just don't know what. If you are this person who's like, how dare you?
I met
How
those
fucking
people
dare you?
this
Like, I
week.
can get it. Okay, the only stripe of that I will at all validate are the people who are like, okay, yeah, maybe if this guy can buy a $3 million house, maybe he doesn't need me to donate to his whatever.
The
like-
reason he can do that is because you donate.
Yeah.
Like, it's,
But I mean,
it's
like,
a business
maybe
model.
It's
It's a business model
you
that
know.
exists in a system we all agree is unjust, but
Please donate to our Patreon.
yeah, no, donate to our
Please, dear God,
Patreon.
I don't want to work for famous birthdays until I die.
Yeah, no, Steve needs to eat something with protein this week, so please donate. We have a special this week for if we manage to get $5 or more of donations, Steve will have a can of tuna delivered to his house
That's true. I like
we'll
tuna.
make sure it
that
happens.
he will be able to eat
$5
in the corner.
But I'll monitor it because I did get mercury poisoning once from eating too much
Whoa.
tuna.
Whoa.
Being cheap.
I want to get Venus poisoning
So-
though. I want the next planet.
Yeah.
Venus poisoning.
Venetian?
Venus poisoning is the fuck poisoning.
Yeah, it's the fuck poisoning. That's
You get
right.
Venus poisoning, that means you like had too much sex.
Yeah, and your hair is too luxurious. Oh my God, it already is happening.
It's
Oh my
happened
God.
to me.
Listener, his
I
hair is very
have
luxurious.
Venus poisoning.
Steve has the poisoning of his dick is doing too much work.
So like, even though I'm not like a huge fan of Hassan, like in particular, like in that I don't like watch his Twitches and etc.
I
but
do.
This
I don't.
this alone made me
But
wanna.
when I do, he's crying about something I don't know.
He is yelling at his.
He is just my favorite thing with Hassan is just the sheer hatred he has for every life decision he's made and the people he has to deal with as a result of those life decisions. He's just like constantly calling one of his audience members retarded, and like
It's
it's
true.
just like no, that's all it is. It's you turn on
because
Hassan.
he eats too much creatine.
You turn on Hassan at any fucking time, and he's like, "What? What's that? You think? Yeah, well, fuck you, you fucking fuck."
You don't understand imperialism, you fucking swine.
Great
Oh,
argument. Oh. Yeah, no, that's Hassan.
But that's
Hassan
the only
is
reason I get
constantly
pissed
caught-
at them for their weird Turk stuff is because they're like imperialism. I'm like,
Well, okay, we need to separate Hassan from Shank.
too. No, that's fair.
But no, Hassan is constantly the Always Sunny gang in the like heightened state of argument where it's just like random gibberish that they're just like making sounds out of their mouths.
Okay, my thing with Hassan as a regular Hassan watcher is that his job is pretty easy in that he generally just watches the news. And it is better to watch the news with Hassan facilitating a bunch of leftist critiques of the news as he watches the news than just somebody watching the news going in cold. And I think that's a pretty good function for somebody who's like, oh yeah, I'm interested in leftism, but I'm watching CNN and they're in Afghanistan and I don't know what to think about it. What does Hassan have to do?
Absolutely.
It is a pretty good value.
Hassan does a job that's good.
And it's like 12 hours a day, and he watches the news, and he argues with all of his donators because they're all fucking children that deserve to be put down and thrown into a corner, and that's fine because that serves a function for him to make his thesis, which is that imperialism is bad. Erdogan also is bad. He makes that abundantly clear.
He does, yeah.
Like, that's fine. That's a fine thing. I wish that there were more people that would watch the news with you that was like, that's fucking bullshit. Pelosi's a fucking skank. She doesn't deserve the credit that she gets.
Oh my gosh. I do need to take a timeout to interject that I believe last week I said I was going to this baby shower and I was like, ooh, I hope somebody says something crazy to me. And of course there was a handful of anti-vaxxers that I came across. But somebody I know started being like, and I didn't put it together because of how she was communicating it. But she was like, well, I don't know. I just know that I don't want to put things in my body. And you know what? There's a lot of things I can't say. You know, everyone hates Trump. But what about that other lady who got her hair done? And I was like, is she talking about Nancy Pelosi? like it was just the way she said it. What about that other lady who got her hair done? And I was like, is that?
No idea what's being even referenced.
So she's indicating that she's somewhat of an anti-vaxxer or that she's like vaccine hesitant. Also, someone did indicate that they do think it was made in a lab. So I was like, yikes, got to go over here.
Which, to be fair, how can you say that is unreasonable given that when I was living with my parents, I saw multiple NBC News stories that were very much presenting that theory as plausible.
I won't disparage it too hard because I believe even fucking Jon Stewart went on fucking Colbert and said so much.
No, liberals got on that narrative the moment Trump left
I think
office.
what we need to really endorse is the lab leak theory. And that it's a good thing that China made it in a lab and destroyed capitalism.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Well, see, my issue with it is purely stupid as always. It's that if I were a bad guy, a bad group, and I want to do something nefarious, like making a virus that is unpredictable in how it will, the outcome and how it will manifest, seems like a really dumb crapshoot.
If
I'm already an evil mastermind who's got access to a biological weapon sort of lab, why am I playing these games?
My thing is it didn't happen because no one with expertise says that that's a plausible theory.
Also, they've been saying for 15 years a novel coronavirus was the most likely form of another.
And the idea that liberals literally jumped on this theory the minute Trump left office, so it was no longer coded Republican, is just extremely blatant. And it's one of the more disgusting
Also,
things.
I feel like, there's just a lot of secret.
Anyway, your incredibly idiotic friend as we finish off our second hour.
Well, look, Hassan's fine. He can buy as many houses as he fucking wants. That's not, like...
Nathan J. Robinson can destroy as many newspapers as he wants.
See.
Contrapoints can keep making liberal...
She can fucking never have another point or a thesis again.
She
in any
should
capacity.
absolutely have a thesis.
The PCS thesis for the night is Contra, bad, qualified. Nathan, bad, who gives a shit. Hassan, good.
Based.
Good
Based
base.
himbo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Based himbo.
Do another Armenian genocide. I don't give a shit.
Oh, see, too far. Always.
Shut up, Christian Turk.
So I'm gonna facilitate the 5 or so people in entertainment who care about things like the Armenian genocide, who aren't the
Long
Kardashians.
live Greater Azerbaijan.
Oh God, no, man. What? Look, I work with a lot of Balkans.
Nagorno-Karabakh is Azerbaijani.
I work with some Azerbaijani, and they fucked up a job recently. So look, the ones here, the ones
Suspect.
there, you're fucking up.
You're sus.
Fun fact, in the top 10 chess players of today, there is one Armenian and one Azeri.
Is that MVL?
MVL is French as fuck.
Oh, yeah.
Maxime Vachir-Lagrave is French. No, it's Levon Aronian, who I think you were trying to say with the L's and stuff. And then I want to say his name is Shakir Mamadravov is the Azeri. But I don't totally remember his name. But Aronian's definitely the Armenian who just moved to America, so now he's American, baby.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is how America wins at chess.
He moved to one specific part in Illinois.
Some might call that Missouri. But those people would just be, the small population that knows where the city of St. Louis is located. The rest of us would definitely call it Illinois, and we should all call it Illinois. Basically...
I just want to interject that I would call it Missouri just because I am a fan of Nellie and the St. Lunatics. So all of my St. Louis knowledge is pretty much funned through
Nellie?
Nellie and the St. Lunatics.
Like one of the top...
Murphy Lee. This is
like the song?
You don't know that he had a group called the St. Lunatics?
I want to know about this group.
It was a guy, Murphy Lee. He had a mask. Look, I'll show you that video after.
Oh, yeah. After our next video.
Look at me. I'm a Robert Plant. Wait, no.
No.
I'm a Roger Daltrey.
We just got those.
Who are you?
Won't get fooled again.
Baba O'Reilly.
Oh, man. Should we
Wasteland.
Should we look up and go do karaoke?
I'm down for karaoke.
I was gonna tell Matt to play us out with that. Anyway,
Matt's gonna choose none of those.
Good
songs.
night, people, and good luck. And who are you?
Who are you? Gay.
Homosexual. Who are you? I woke up with a dick in my mouth and a face in my cum.
all right. Good night.
I'ma read that bitch. I'ma school that bitch. I'ma take that bitch to college. I'ma give that bitch some knowledge. I'ma read that bitch.